Somewhere in Star Trek, between the Excelsior class and the Galaxy class, lies the Ambassador class. We are introduced to our first in the classic Next Generation episode, Yesterday's Enterprise. But apart from a handful of appearances over a short space of time, the class seemed to disappear. Join us now as we attempt to answer the question, what happened to the Ambassadors? It seems somehow fitting that an IP which values friendship and understanding between cultures and peoples, which seeks out strange new worlds, new life forms and new civilizations, should have a starship class called the Ambassador class. In this video, we will consider the Ambassador class and attempt to dream up a plausible, in-universe explanation for why they disappeared. With the arrival of the Enterprise D to our screens, fans of Star Trek found themselves with an intriguing mystery. From the Next Generation, we knew there was an Enterprise D, and from the voyage home, we knew there was an Enterprise A. Clearly, there would have to be an Enterprise B and an Enterprise C. Logic suggested that the third ship to bear the name would be an Excelsior-class ship, but what of the fourth? There was a visual clue. There, on the ship wall of the observation lounge of the Enterprise D, were 5 bronze starship shapes. The Excelsior-class ship was there, and close by was the shadow of this mysterious Enterprise C. It was a shape suggesting an intermediary design between Excelsior and Galaxy. But it would not be until the episode Yesterday's Enterprise that this ghost of Christmas past drifted into view. What we got was not the Andrew Probert designed bronze, but a modified and simplified design by Rick Sternbach, with a cylindrical secondary hull and swept back nacelle supports. In a future video, we may speculate over what the Probert design would have looked like in the fullness of her glory. But for now, we will focus Having debuted as the Enterprise C, the Ambassador class model was joined by a second model with a few minor variations. There is a page on the Ex-Astris Scientia website that goes through the differences in detail. This second model played the part of the Zukov, the Excalibur, and the Yamaguchi. The latter ship appeared in the Deep Space Nine debut, Emissary, and then, like that, they were gone. Deep Space Nine had a great many starships. It had great fleets, flying past the camera. But whilst there were Excelsiors and Mirandas and Galaxies, there seemed to be an absence of Ambassador-class ships. What happened to the Ambassador class? Why did they vanish? Surely if the Miranda class was still in commission, a design harking back a century, then the newer Ambassador class would be evident. Had the model fallen off a shelf and smashed like the original Red Dwarf model? Why not a CGI model? What? The real-world answer is undoubtedly practical and straightforward. And if anyone knows, feel free to share the answer in the comments section below. But for now, let us attempt to solve this in-universe. The Enterprise C met her fate at Narendra 3 in 2344, so we know she was commissioned at some point prior to this year. The Yamaguchi appeared in the Deep Space Nine pilot Emissary, which is dated as 2369. I'm reasonably certain this marks the last time an Ambassador-class ship is seen in Star Trek, so the class collectively reached a minimum age of about a quarter of a century. The Excelsior class reached a century, and so did the Miranda class and the Oberth class. The Constitution class, on the other hand, seems to have lasted only 40 years. Was the Ambassador class withdrawn from service. This makes sense, and especially makes sense if the Galaxy class was meant to be the direct replacement for the Ambassadors, rather than a class intended to work alongside them. Britain's ballistic missile submarines, for example, are replaced by new classes one for one. The Resolution class was replaced by the Vanguard class. The Vanguard class will be replaced by the Dreadnought class. Such real-world vessels are viewed as capital ships, big and expensive, and we can suppose the Ambassador class and the Galaxy class ships were viewed as capital ships as well, rather than as the workhorses of the fleet, like the Miranda class. But as with many capital ships, their lifespan was not as long. The Ambassador class may have been designed as flagships, and into their design and construction went many innovations. But as time went on, it was realized the innovations had outstripped the Starship class, and so a new class, the Galaxy class, was needed. The Ambassadors were decommissioned on a one-for-one basis, as each new Galaxy class starship was commissioned. Throw into this the Cardassian War, and we have a plausible in-universe explanation. The Ambassador class starships, already so few in number, seem to have disappeared. But if this was the case, where does that leave the Excelsior class? Surely they were the capital ships of their day.